I'm Kurt. I've long contended that there's a massive conflict of interest in the way that cryptocurrency is reported. It's money. In many cases, it's a large investment for people. And so people that are innately curious about the space have a tendency to invest themselves, and then they lose their impartiality very quickly. Much the same if you were reviewing consumer products, you shouldn't be an investor in the company for which you're reviewing products. How do we get around this in the cryptocurrency space when something is new and fashionable and fancy, but also has the ability to make sometimes 10,000 times gains? How do you stay impartial to report on such things? Eileen, I'd love to start with you.
So I immediately feel like a fraud because I've purposely never bought any cryptocurrency in any flavors at all. And one of the conversations that I have is about money. It's always about money. And why don't you have any cryptocurrency? And I think that it's really important for me not to have any investment because you naturally get skewed towards writing about that technology. But the problem I had when I first started writing about this a couple of years ago, I think the first thing I wrote about was Twitch, the Twitter alternative. And I didn't have any money to send any Twitches. So somebody donated $5 so that I could actually send my first Twitch. And I felt so guilty about being biased towards BSV that I brought somebody else on and paid it forward and gave him $5. So any 1 and 2 cents that I've ever received has been earned by me. But I don't want to be biased. I want to be as independent as possible. And I think that gives me the opportunity to look across all of the protocols.
Sure.
And if I write about BSV, I then write about Ethereum or IBM blockchain or something else, just so that I can remain vendor neutral. Would I buy any Bitcoin? No, not yet. Not while I'm writing about it, because that's not fair.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Gentlemen, I'd actually love to hear the answer from all of you, frankly.
Well, as it happens for me, I was at a conference like this in 2014, and just as a joke, there was like a teller machine that I would put in 20 francs, a bill, and out comes a piece of paper with the QR code, and afterwards I forgot completely about this paper. And just before Christmas last year, I had to like clean up the house and found this strange bill, and what was then 20 francs was at the time that I discovered it again 2,800 francs. So that was quite of a good Christmas surprise.
Yeah, I was going to say, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I still do have this Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have like a massive amount. And I think when I talk with my journalists, then I always tell them, well, there's on the one hand what Eileen just told you, you have to be neutral. But on the other hand, if you don't have first-hand experience, if you're not in the field, and in the field means also you do something in the field, and this might be buying stocks or buying funds or buying cryptocurrencies. And so if you have first-hand experience, if you're involved, you probably know more about it than someone who's not doing anything. I mean, I don't think that me as a journalist is capable to manipulate the market that is X hundreds billions of dollars. So that's probably not really the case that I would be able to influence it. So I'm not worried really about me influencing the currency, but I'm still aware of there could be a case where this would be different. But
sure. Valentin?
At Finanz und Wirtschaft, we are an investor newspaper, and we do our own equity research. And we have strict rules in our contract that the portfolio of companies you follow, you aren't allowed to have any stocks of those companies, as you said. To be independent and to avoid front running and etc. Now we don't have those rules when it comes to cryptocurrencies, and I have a similar story like Harry. I never bought Bitcoin, but 5-6 years ago, when I started for the first time researching the whole area of Bitcoin and blockchain. I had lunch with an expert here in Zurich, and the restaurant only took cash, and the expert didn't have cash with him, and so I said, hey, lunch is on me. And he said, no, wait. We talked about it all day long. You go home, open up a Bitcoin wallet, and I send you the amount of the lunch I owe you in Bitcoin. And so I got 5 or 6 years back, 20 francs worth of Bitcoin. Yeah. Similar to Harry, they developed quite nicely, but I never bought any in addition. I hope I'm still independent. I think I'm still independent, but I have a little bit of skin in the game, which could be debated is a good thing.
Yeah,
sure. Jim, please.
I think it's important to show that you are an investor when you are writing about specific cryptocurrencies. For me, if I invest in 5 or 6 cryptocurrencies, digital assets, it means I'm passionate about them. It means I want to find out about the CEO, I want to find out about the team, I want to find out about their governance, I want to find out about their technology. I want to find out what's going on behind the scenes. So I want to open the curtains and really know. And from digging and investigating and interrogating, from there I feel I've got a better understanding of what's going on and I can write about it. Now, whether I have $1 or $1 million, I have my own personal integrity as a writer and as a podcaster. And it's up to me to do the right thing to the listeners and the readers and present facts. But I really do think it's important that I'm not an armchair investor, that I'm proactively digging all the time, the same way a financial journalist would do with stocks.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of the Jim Cramer effect. You know, he's actually giving investment advice, and I think that's where there's a little bit of a dichotomy in the Bitcoin space. Is we can be technology journalists and not really talk about the investment aspect of things, but then there are obviously also people that are there doing technical analysis, and here's why you should buy now, and this sort of thing. And I think that's where there's a bit of a gray line that gets breached quite often, especially as you dig your way deeper into the internet. But the thing that bugs me the most is we look at some of these large organizations, and we know what their biases are. CoinGeek, for example, is obviously a BSV advocacy group. We know this. If I work for CoinGeek, I'm speaking about BSV positively. Or if I worked for Bitcoin.com, you would expect me to talk about Bitcoin Cash favorably. The problem for me is I look at a company like CoinDesk. CoinDesk is owned in part by Digital Currency Group, and Digital Currency Group has investments. They're frankly one of the largest players in the space. They own hedge funds, they own parts of Coinbase and Kraken, and then even Ripple Corporation, some of these things. But then CoinDesk is this large organization. They're really the voice of the blockchain economy in many ways. And I don't know how many people know that. So I'm curious, again, how can we get away from that conflict of interest? How can people trust this information? How can we perhaps put proof of work into these things to get through the noise and say, am I being sold something, or am I actually being educated? Is this news or is this propaganda? Again, I'd love to hear a little bit of feedback on that front for when it's a little unclear whether or not we're being sold something.
I mean, I think it's a little bit also part of the game that the crypto, I mean, the crypto guys themselves, as you and everyone that's in the crypto space has to be involved and look for the industry to develop not in a direction of scams. I mean, I would be, as a journalist, really, really happy if the industry had an organization that would have some ethical standards, and if there is a scam going on, that you yourselves will point at them. Because I I did 3 or 4 stories about scams. I mean, in Switzerland, there are 4,000 cryptocurrencies, and about 3,900 are absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
At best. Or scams. So, I mean, the industry itself, I mean, if we look at financial industry or other industries, they have these organizations where you have ethical standards. I mean, you can talk about financial industry, they have scams as well, but they at least have an organization where you have to have some standards that you're in the organization or you're outside. And I would love to see that also happening in the crypto space. And more, I mean, there are small developments here in Switzerland. Bitcoin Association from time to time is trying to do things, but I would love to see much more, because otherwise, with an industry having 3,900 scam currencies or nonsense currencies, that's just crazy. I mean, no wonder people just look for making a quick buck and not thinking about the technology at the back of it.
Yeah.
And I think this has got to be a technology-led play. If I was working in the enterprise in a government organization or a large industry, I don't want to hear about something that everybody's shouting about how much the potential for money. I want to see a line of business application. I want it managed on a secure, well-managed infrastructure. I want it 5 nines uptime, which is less than 5 minutes downtime per year. I want it on a decent set of servers. I don't want to run it on your cloud server that might be switched off when you go on holiday. I like the distributed idea, but when we go to the cloud, we go to Amazon or we go to Microsoft Azure, we go to a reputable, well-managed, infrastructure-led environment. And if you take an example of another distributed social media platform, Mastodon, I don't know if you know about it, it's been around several years, but anyone can run a Mastodon node, anyone. But over time, users of Mastodon have graduated to the secure, well-managed infrastructure servers that guarantee uptime and have credible people on board. And I think this will happen across the Bitcoin industry. And BSV, you see that with BSV now. And as soon as that starts to get credible line of business applications on it, then industry will follow.
Brilliant. And I think that's really what we're trying to show. I mean, this is why we're here in Zurich, is to say, hey, we're building enterprise-grade infrastructure that you can rely on. And we often get called the big scam in the space. And it's a fascinating thing to me, because we're really the only group of people that are not pushing people to buy the coin. I've never told anybody to buy BSV ever. And it's a fascinating thing. It makes me feel as though we're a giant threat. And I think that comes down to perception. So I'm curious, as journalists, how do you break through that perception of people that just think anything on the blockchain that, because it's 90+% scams, how do you get them to see that, hey, there's real value here. We really could change the face of all kinds of industries with this technology? Valentin, please.
I mean, when you see what so many companies, not only the large, the big companies, are doing in the field of the blockchain, this gives credibility to the technology. Now, when you are a startup, you always have the problem with you're building up credibility as you go. You have to build up a track record. You have to show good, decent work, or you partnering with a bigger company, lending credibility from that company, or as what Harry said, that you make up a set of rules and stick to it. In Switzerland, there are the self-regulating organizations for the small independent wealth and asset managers. Set up their own rules, stick to it, and the financial authority can enforce on these rules. And also, I mean, there is legislation in Switzerland concerning blockchain, cryptocurrencies. Now you can, as a financial service provider in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, you can go to the financial authority and say, hey, give me a license. And they, after a certain time, they can give you a license, and you operate under the Swiss regulation umbrella as a financial service provider in Bitcoin, blockchain, or cryptocurrency space.
Brilliant. Jim, same question. How do we bridge that gap? How do we teach people that there is something beautiful in that 5% of things that are not outright scams?
I think one of the issues we have in cryptocurrency and blockchain is we see ourselves and are classified as a subculture. So the same way someone likes train spotting or collecting stamps, there's this small group of people who are into blockchain and cryptocurrency, and they're just seen as this kind of maybe a bit radical, a bit edgy, a bit too techy, and then of course people jumping on that in the scam scenario. With your coin telegraphs and your coin desks, we need to move outside that, and as journalists and advocates start banging on the doors of the Financial Telegraph and the Economist and all these other publications, and let them know the good stuff that is going on with quality people. I mean, I've heard some amazing quality presentations at this conference, and what I haven't heard at this conference, but I watched in Miami, was people swearing and the toxicity, and I think that puts people off, and it makes it look too tribal, and what it does is it gives the mainstream press an opportunity to have a go in a negative, pejorative way, rather than embracing the technology and all the great work that's been done. So I guess in summary, I think it's up to us to, I want to get in front of some of these editors and tell them exactly what's going on, and not what some journal's been fed by someone on Twitter.
You know, it's funny you bring up, I was actually at the Miami conference before coming here, and I can't tell you how much of a contrast there is between Zurich and Miami. I think they're maybe the two most different places on earth. But it's really been a wonderful contrast, though. I was interviewing people on the street there, and it occurred to me that the things that appeal to different cultures are really hard to plan for something that's supposed to be a global economy, a global network. We keep saying that Bitcoin can connect the entire earth and make us all entrepreneurs and all these different things, but is something like that possible? Can we communicate such universal ideals to people that are so different? It is our job as folks in the media.
I think that one of the main things that makes people worry about this is the very term cryptocurrency, because by the name cryptocurrency, it indicates secrecy. And yet, every single transaction, you can see it. Okay, the address is a bit meaningless, but it's not cryptography. And yes, I understand about the public-private key exchange, but it's a digital currency. It's not a cryptographic currency. And I think that's one of the things that over time, I think, will change as people realize that it is a digital currency. And I think when I tried to look at what was happening in BTC, all I find anywhere are people shouting about how much money you can make. And Ethereum, all everybody talks about is the gas prices. Yeah. And the fact if you want decent performance, you've got to go off-chain to run your smart contract. And it only seems to be BSV that actually talks about servers, which is the thing that really floats my boat. Sorry. Geekly.
Well, and that actually brings up another fascinating point, even perceptions within the blockchain community as to are we cypherpunk anarchist activists, or are we business development fintech types and this sort of thing. I think there's a real, a quiet civil war going on there, and I think it's up to people in the media, journalists and advocates to really define what the future is going to be. So I would love to hear your feedback about that, gentlemen.
Well, back to your first point, I mean, even if cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin is global, you have to communicate locally, because, I mean, even body language is different. If you go to India, this means yes, and here it's, what the fuck are you talking about? Am I allowed to swear here in Zurich? No. Huh?
You are now. I mean, this isn't Miami, but...
that was a little bit of Miami here, huh? No, but I mean, you have to communicate local and also the local industry that is, for example, here in Zug has to communicate here with Switzerland, and probably the community that is in the US has to communicate there, because there's not only India and Switzerland or Miami and Switzerland where the difference is so big, it's also in business. I mean, there's totally different culture here, so probably it's not possible as a journalist to like write this piece where it's global as Bitcoin and everyone thinks, wow, now I understood what the technology is. I mean, it's work. It's local work. It's day by day work. I mean, there's no trick box where you can have a grab inside and take something out and say, wow, here's the rabbit.
Brilliant. Any feedback?
I mean, I don't think that. I think the whole Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain sphere had made major steps in the last years, coming out of the dark, coming out of the shadow, coming out of this corner of it's all a scam. I mean, I have the glasses of Switzerland on as Harry said in Zug. Hundreds of startups were incorporated in this blockchain area. Some disappeared, some are still there, some are doing really, really good. There are brilliant people. There are people who just want to make a quick buck. But I mean, it's a vibrant environment, and you just have to give them time and to see that the traditional players in the industry and in finance are hopping onto the train. You see, there's something with substance and not a scam.
Yeah. Anything to add, Jim?
I think as digital assets and fantastic blockchain, we need to show the use cases. So the use cases of Cardano, the use cases of reserve rights, the use cases of Ethereum and BSV, to what it can do, and try and steer the dialogue and the narrative away from, oh, Bitcoin is up 10% today, Bitcoin is down 10% today, China's banning Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. And actually look at these startups who are creating they're just normal businesses, but they're using cryptography as part of their technology, and actually highlight the use cases and what they're doing and the problems they're solving. And I think that would be a really good step into mainstream media.
And I love that. I'm going to segue a little bit. Media, publishing, journalism has really decentralized itself, largely because of the internet. And I think it's possible to see that happen quite a bit more because of blockchain technology. But I'm going to give a shout out to my friends at Twetch. I'm friends with the guys that built that company. And they saw the same thing. They wanted to build it on Ethereum. And they looked into building other tools on other blockchains over the last couple of years. But a company like Twetch wasn't possible to build there. But they look at social publishing, social media in the most traditional sense as the ability to own your data and for the individual to profit from their data without having to share with a larger publishing organization. And as a podcaster, Jim, and all of that, like we sort of become our own brand as the technology gets better. And if you can be paid directly, does that put a real threat to the magnates of media industry? Do you think there's potential for them to try to suppress that technology? Or do we just press forward, we're going to disrupt them anyways, and full steam ahead?
I mean, if you look at the media, I mean, how many bookstores did you see in Miami? How many bookstores are here in Zurich? I mean, the media industry is at the point where surely disruption would be welcomed if there is a possibility to renew what has been a prospering industry, because it's not now. I mean, that's quite clear if you look around, if you take the example of the bookstores, but also if you take other examples, of course. I mean, now you have this finance magnates who finance Washington Post, and here in Switzerland you have also some political parties that finance some media. So the media industry is surely one of the industries that would welcome if there is a possibility to take a turn at intellectual property rights, because that's the big problem actually. At the base, that's the problem, intellectual property. If you can change that with blockchain, you can give me a call tomorrow. I'm gonna help you to to do whatever you plan to do if I think it's a good plan. But yes, that would be great. I think media industry could be a point of entrance for use cases. I don't see anything really where I think, well, this is going to change the media industry yet, but I see the potential for it.
I think it's significantly going to change. So big shout out to Twitch, not because it was the first platform I used, but because of some of the innovations that have come out of Twitch, specifically about killing spam. You can't afford to spam now because it would cost you too much on the blockchain. And secondly, the problem that is endemic across Twitter, trolling. You can force trolls to pay $10 before they control you. That is absolutely going to change the face of the way that we communicate on social media. The other thing is fake news. You are going to have a heck of a lot of money to get your fake news posts seen by the right amount of people to make it become a theme. And I think blockchain is going to completely change the social content landscape simply because of that.
Beautiful. Valentin?
As you said, I don't think that even the biggest media magnates can suppress any technology or potential competition that works on that technology. In the other way, my company, the Finanz und Wirtschaft, is part of Tamedia, which is part of TX Group, as they call themselves now. And TX Group, a couple of months back, took a stake in Lücke. So they invested in a company in this realm. I don't know really what they're up to, what they are planning, or if there are some synergies that they want to follow through. But it's a start. So, and there you have the proof. It's not against each other. It's a cooperation. Yeah. But I don't know what the future will hold in this perspective. I'm excited.
That's good. Me too. Jim, please.
I think the 21st century media magnates are Google, Apple, and Facebook, and that some of the newspapers are just printing salacious headlines. I think what could really be a game changer here for us is if something like Apple, and I've got 3 devices around me just now, just counting, is a really trusted brand. We give it our data, our photographs, it does our banking, Apple Pay. If Apple decides to get into the cryptocurrency or crypto asset world and does it in a really smart way, then a lot of the mainstream press and these magnates of traditional newspapers will sit up and listen, because that could be a game changer.
That's an interesting segue there. You know, the black swan, give a little hint for what's coming tomorrow. But man, what a weird world. I mean, all of us have been, well, I haven't been in media for so long, but some of us have been for quite some time here and doing amazing things. So I have to ask, what is your biggest struggle when you try to convey something or teach something to your audience about Bitcoin or blockchain generically? What's the thing you struggle with the most?
Case studies. There's no case studies. There's no credible case studies. There's lots of projects. But if I'm trying to sell something or inform somebody about the credibility and the scalability and the performance and the reliability, I need case studies, because my readers are going to want to go and ask the person in the company, how did you implement this? How can we put this across the enterprise? ZDNet is focused on the enterprise. It's a business enterprise publication. So people don't particularly want to hear about the cyberpunks, I think you called them, but that ship sailed for me a long time ago, I think. But people want credibility. So I think pitching something that's credible and reliable is far more important than the latest cool whizzy thing that was created in a weekend.
Brilliant.
Well, biggest struggle is with a lot of issues that I write about is that there's on the one side, there's the experts, there's the Bitcoin community or the cryptocurrency community that knows a lot about what's going on, and there's the readers, they know nothing. So I have to find like pictures. I pictured once Bitcoin as a sausage that you can make a cow to a sausage, but not backwards. That's how I explained what crypto is in the cryptocurrency space. So you can develop it forwards, but there's no backwards. But then, of course, all these things that I tell my writers are not always 100% perfect. And I need, on the other hand, experts, and there's always calls and stuff. What did you write? And I say, well, you want me to write something that no one cares for, no one listens to, because no one understands. I write something that people want to listen to and read. So let me do my job, get off the phone. That's the biggest struggle that I have. Not only with cryptocurrency, that's also lawyers. Lawyers are the worst. Lawyers are the worst because they want to appeal to their peer group, to the other lawyers. If they see, hey, there's a quote of you and you didn't get it right there, that's the big problem for the lawyers because they appeal to the peers. And that's also always with the experts. They want to appeal to the peers and not to the audience. And I have to appeal to the audience because I want to get read. So that's the biggest struggle, always.
Yeah, it's funny, you mentioned earlier how to appeal to your region, and so I think a sausage example to German-speaking audience.
Actually, there's in Switzerland, there's in the east of Switzerland, there's St. Gallen, and there's a special sausage, and I took this one because that's known. Everyone laughs about the eastern guys here in Switzerland because of their sausage. So that was the local bit.
I love it. This is the best story I've heard in Zurich. Valentin, please.
What is the hardest to tell people who are not experts? I guess everyone here is an expert, and everyone at least a little knows how blockchain. What's the theory behind blockchain? How a blockchain works? And every time I write something about Bitcoin or blockchain, I tend to start at the beginning and say, hey, a blockchain is A, B, C, D. And it's not that easy. It's not that intuitive. I tried to explain it to my mother, and she nodded at me, but I don't know if she understands it. But the other day she asked me if she should buy Bitcoin. So the thing is, when we try to explain the basics, I don't think we will find the audience. It's like with the internet. Back then we didn't bother with trying to really understand it, to read the protocols and stuff. Or the thing with the car, you can drive a car. You don't have to know how to build one. So what's interesting is the use cases. What Eileen said. What's interesting is the use cases and what a blockchain can do for me, or for me as a private person, as an employee, or as a private investor, right? And those are the interesting cases. And I think those are the cases. Those are the articles who are getting written.
I think that's actually a brilliant answer.
If I can jump in, I hear that there's no use cases. There's one big elephant use case in the room, and that's get rich quick. Yeah. That's the use case that everyone knows, because everyone knows someone who has bought Bitcoin in 2009 for a cent and now is billionaire. Yeah. And that's the big use case that everyone knows. And this elephant is in the room, and all the other use cases are limited in the space because the big elephant is there.
Well, they look like opportunity cost compared to just sitting and earning money. So that's an interesting gap to bridge too as communicators. But we need those startups. Eventually, we need to start creating value. We can't just absorb it forever. At least, I don't think we can.
That's the funny thing about this industry. It's a multi-billion. Alone Bitcoin alone and Ethereum, 1,500 billion or whatever, and it's crazy. I mean, look at these numbers. They're crazy. Because do you know another industry? I mean, people think about Tesla and they say it's crazy. It's only 500 billions, but they have cars. I see the cars driving here. That's a use case. And everyone thinks that's completely crazy, 500 billion for Tesla and so. And we have an industry. I don't see nothing. I see Bitcoin. Swiss has trams. They have advertisements on the trams, but that's about it. I don't see as a normal person here in Switzerland or wherever you are, I don't see nothing. And the industry is 1,500 billions. That's completely nuts.
Absolutely. Man, if anybody wants to just keep jumping in, we can just go free for all. I love it. But Jim, what's your biggest struggle reporting and communicating about Bitcoin, blockchain technology?
I think there's two struggles. The first struggle is for baby boomers who actually have money and could invest. In that when you tell them they have to set up a non-custodial wallet with a 12-word seed phrase, and if they ever lose that, they've lost all their money, that's quite a tough one, because they can't just phone up the bank and get their money back or find an audit trail. So the technology needs to move on so that it's a lot more user-friendly. And the second struggle is there's all this talk about let's kill the banks, where it's the European Central Bank, the US Federal Reserve, or the Bank of England, they all come out and say, oh, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, it's all a bit dodgy, it's all a bit scammy, so let's kill them, because they're the problem, they've always been the problem. And I think what we should do is embrace the payment rails that they have, and it can work with BSV, and all these different companies can come in, and IBM, and they can all create a better financial system as opposed to having us and them. And I think just now there's too much fear because we're making it us and them, or certain elements of the blockchain are. So if we can improve that, we've got a better option moving forward.
I love it. I'm going to see if we can come to consensus about an idea. It seems like actually we're all on the same page, that the sort of financial reporting, the hype, the problem with scammers, and some of this is perhaps a detriment to not only the success of the industry, but also the people advocating for it. I mean, for me, shoot, what would I have to talk about if it all went and crashed down because we just couldn't break through that noise? So I guess, can we come to consensus, even if we disagree with where the industry should go, that we should be focused on the startups and the real business application and the value that can be created with the technology? Maybe just a simple yes or no from everybody.
Yes, you've got a lot of potential. We're at the start of a massive adoption curve, and there's a great use case scenario just waiting for somebody to adopt it. Internet of Things. There's so many things, and there's so many blockchain opportunities. Somebody just create something that will give us enough sensors to put everything on the blockchain so we can track everything. So the answer is yes.
Brilliant. Harry?
I'm struggling with the yes. I mean, yes, of course, but if I hear the Internet of Things and controlling everything and we have access to everything and checking everything and everything is locked somewhere, I, on the one hand, very welcome this, on the other hand, not so much. I mean, there's not only good governments, there's also other governments. We're living here in a part of the world where this might not be a problem, and I'm very happy that I'm in this part of the world, but I know there is other parts where probably it is of a great danger to the people there. I mean, I don't want to point at any country, but I see also in the very essence of crypto blockchain, let's stick to blockchain. I see in the essence of blockchain also something that might be not so really misused, might be misused. There's always potential. I mean, if you have a car, you can drive into people. If you have a blockchain, you can do good things, but you can do bad things. Yeah. And I'm worried when everything is controlled that it can go to the wrong side.
Can I get a 10-second response from you, Valentin?
I'm interested in, very excited to see all those use cases that are out there in development coming to fruition, especially as I'm a financial journalist. The Swiss Stock Exchange is working on a digital exchange that will run on blockchain. When they launch that, that could be a big step forward. I'm excited.
Amen. And Jim?
Yes, let's get the governance right, and let's have nation states building on BSV, Cardano, and moving the whole industry forward.
Oh, amen. Let's put in some proof of work. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you.
Reimagine the world's financial system. One built on being simple and fair, not one that's overcomplicated, outdated, and broken, and keeps a quarter of the world's population from accessing it. Reimagine your own finances. Do you have full visibility and control of your assets and investments? We believe there's a better way, a new future for financial services. One built on equal opportunity, where possibilities are limitless, not limited, and everyone can live the life to which they aspire. At Fabric, we're weaving a better future of finance for the billions locked out and the billions locked in. A safe, open, and fully transparent financial ecosystem built on innovative technology, where anyone can transform, hold, trade, and grow their assets, all in one accessible place. But this journey isn't ours to take alone. Are you ready to join in? To reimagine a better future with us? Where everything is digital and anything is possible. Fabric. Reimagine prosperity.